and being like, yeah, he was trying to tell me to overturn the election. What an idiot. I can't do that. And said, President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election. Okay, so I mean, all right, well, let's finish the quote. Presidency belongs to the American people and the American people alone. And frankly, there is no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could choose the American president. So this is February. So, I mean, this is where I get skeptical because this is after January 6th. This is after. It's like, oh, I don't want to be associated with Trump anymore.
If that's the case, then why are you skeptical about his actions after?
No. I'm skeptical. Wait, finish your question.
I was gonna say, well, maybe I misunderstand what you're confusing. So go for it.
I'm saying that reading this, it sounds like Pence is the one who is twisting Trump's words and being like, yeah, he was trying to tell me to overturn the election. What an idiot. I can't do that. Whereas it seems more reasonable and just what I've heard, exactly what Bill is saying, is to simply not certify and send it to the courts, not to overturn it. And so it sounds like if that's Pence's quote, then he's specifically talking about he's specifically obfuscating what Trump was trying to do.
It wasn't
leading up to January 6th. I forget exactly what Trump's language was in this discussion, but one of the
peacefully
counts,
and patriotically.
Well, one of the counts in the DC indictment regarded him talking to Pence, suggesting that send it back to the states. And when Pence said that he couldn't do that, was when Trump said that Pence was being too honest.
Oh yeah.
So, I think that's one of the main lines of reasoning as to why that was like a corrupt action that Trump was trying to get Pence to actually overturn the results as opposed to merely disputing the results of those elections.
And I think it was also the fact that it was made clear that it wasn't like he lost and he just wouldn't give into that. So like if he willfully knew that and he's telling Pence you're too honest, doesn't really come off like he thought that he like won. It seemed like he just wanted Pence to overthrow it. But there is a letter written from Pence about this actually. I'll have to send that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's
more to his statement than
that because that really that's a big difference, at least in my eyes, that if Trump genuinely believes that they're like with the find the votes quote, to me that means like if I say, can you go find my car keys, I'm not asking you to fabricate car keys. I'm asking you to go get the car keys that already exist. And so I mean that could go either way. So Devon's got from PBS News. This was from January 6th.
Should be at the bottom.
So what am I looking for?
Scroll down, you'll see like if you scroll, you'll see it. It's his letter that he wrote.
Oh, right, gotcha. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Dear from the Vice President in Washington on J6. Dear colleague, today for the 59th time in our nation's history, Congress will convene in a joint session. No, I'm not gonna make it any better.
It's a lot.
Let's see. There we go. Really? Okay. 59th time in our nation's history, Congress will convene in a joint session to count the electoral votes for President of the United States. Under our Constitution, it will be my duty as Vice President and as President of the Senate to serve as a presiding officer. After an election with significant allegations of voting irregularities and numerous instances of the officials setting aside state election law, I share the concerns of millions of Americans about the integrity of this election. The American people choose the American president and have every right under the law to demand free and fair elections and a full investigation of electoral misconduct. As presiding officer, I will do my duty to ensure that these concerns receive a fair and open hearing in the Congress of the United States. Objections will be heard, evidence will be presented, and the elected representatives of the American people will make their decisions. Talking about our founders, created the Electoral College, a bunch of parties. In the 130 years since the Electoral Count Act was passed, Congress has, without exception, used these formal procedures to count electoral votes every 4 years. Given the controversy surrounding this year's election, some approach to this year's quadrennial tradition. That's a $10 word right there. Quadrennial tradition with great expectation, and others with dismissive disdain. Some believe that as vice president, I should be able to accept or reject electoral votes unilaterally. So again, this is where I'm like, that sounds like what you're saying that we're saying. Where was I? That some believe that as vice president, I should be able to accept or reject electoral votes unilaterally. Others believe that the electoral votes should never be challenged in a joint session of Congress. After careful study of our Constitution, laws, and history, I believe neither view is correct. The president is the chief executive officer for the federal government under our Constitution, possessing immense power to impact the lives of the American people. The presidency belongs to American people and them alone. When disputes concerning a presidential election arise under federal law, it is the people's representatives who review the evidence and resolve disputes through the democratic process. Our founders were deeply skeptical of the concentrations of power and created a republic based on separation of powers of checks and balances under the Constitution. Okay, so then this, so that really then brings up the question of what the Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Yeah, the Electoral Count Act and what that allows the vice president or the presiding officer to do.
So basically, from that letter, it sounded like Pence was saying that the decision was made before his authority, right? In the states certifying their election counts. And I know that a number of the states, including Georgia and Arizona, had already gone through and done recounts prior to that period and recertified their results. So I think
so hypothetically then, why did or rather did Pence have the power to call for any kind of recount or anything like that? Or he's just like, I can't be here.
I think that he did have the ability to push it back to Congress, but I don't think that there was any reason to do it because it was very clear that Trump had lost.
And that's the argument, though. So that's begging the question: the whether or not it is clear that Trump lost or not is what is being investigated, or what people wanted to be investigated.
Yeah, but it seems to be the case, at least from what I've read about that. Trump knew, and there were recounts. There was multiple information that let him know that he had lost. I think even in one of the indictments, there's the idea that he even knew that he lost, and that even ties into the fact that he was telling Mike Pence, like David said, "You're too honest." It seemed like Mike Pence probably didn't want to do it because he knew that Trump lost, and Trump knew that he lost. And in this conversation, him telling him he's too honest, it's like, yeah, that sort of tells me your intentions here are a little rocky. But yeah.
Makes sense. Shout out to Logan 1990. Welcome. Brings up a great point about in 1960 when Nixon chose to use the alternate electors.
Yeah, but that election was actually I believe that election actually was there was some uncertainty with who won. So I think there was a reason why they could have done that, as opposed to Trump actually knowing that or not even just him knowing that the race not being that contentious and not being that uncertain. I think there were two different cases. There's a little more details to it, but Dan Bongino, he likes to bring up the Hawaii precedent and whatnot to describe this and whatnot. Right. And they're definitely two different situations materially.
Well, why is that election? First, it was one state. It was Hawaii. The election wasn't close enough to where the suggestion that different slate of electors be counted at all threatened the results of that election. And in addition to that, it was really close. It was within a few hundred votes, I'd like to say, and it was overturned on recount. maybe it wasn't January 6th that year, but it was, on the day that they were counting the official certificates for the election. Hawaii had sent in 3 certificates. They sent in the original certified slate of electors, an uncertified Democratic slate, and a certified Democratic slate. So they had originally sent in, or planned to send in, a uncertified second slate, but the recount concluded prior to that session, and I believe the certified recounted slate was then the official count during that session.
But so we can definitely say they're different scenarios. But just in I'm trying to see the difference between, like, you're saying a level of uncertainty. Certainly, at least since that election, this election is the one that has the highest degree of uncertainty. Maybe you could say Bush and Gore, but other than that,
I don't think that it was uncertain with the actual, like, the actual results. I don't think were uncertain. I think Trump felt that they were uncertain. He said they were uncertain, and then people in general started thinking that it was uncertain because, like, they wanted Trump to win. But the people that were actually involved with the election, like, it wasn't, after the counting, it wasn't close enough at all. After recounts, it wasn't close enough at all. Like, it materially was not as contentious as something that actually was like a few hundred votes away. This was just, Trump saying that it's like, we're uncertain, we don't know, like, or not even we don't know. He was saying I won, but yeah.
Well,
fair,
it was
fair
something
enough.
that he even projected prior to the election as well, right? Like going back to 2016, when he was asked if he would accept the results of the election, he said that he would see
But
whenever.
yeah, that goes both ways though. They were all saying that.
Going back to the Emmys when he kept saying it was rigged when he lost. Every time.
But again, that goes both ways. Everybody and their mother, including Hillary Clinton, said that they, there's no way that Trump was going to win, and they would have to, see, like, are you going to accept? Well, we have to see if this. So that cuts both ways.
She said she would accept if Trump won.
But she did
for a long
time.
No, she
didn't.
did.
Long time. She was.
But how many years has it been? How many years has it been since Trump is still not accepting this after all these recounts?
I mean, I agree. You're right.
We agree with that.
I'm just saying.
I just feel like they're two different things.
It's wrong when Hillary did it, and it's wrong when Trump did it. It's wrong when anybody does
it.
So it's wrong.
Materially different things too.
I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even say.
But again, that's begging the question. The whole question is, was it legitimate? And so now, if we have, like, I can. It makes sense to me as somebody who is looking for middle ground that the mail-in ballots and the Hunter Biden story were probably the biggest things that you could, draw a circle around. And, things like the votes going to the wrong addresses, dead people voting, stuff like that. There's where are you going to get legitimate information on that? That's not that, somebody on the other side is not going to say, oh, well, that's bullshit, whatever.
That's a good question, actually.
So those two things, though, we know that they happened. We know that the Hunter Biden story was suppressed, and we know that the mail-in ballots changed the landscape of voting. So, given that those were rules that were changed and not rules that were broken, if that is the material difference between what we're talking about in the 2020 election and the 1960 election, then I can accept that, because those were rules that were changed and then followed. They weren't rules that were broken. But I still and so I'll say, okay, fine. Then there's no legal grounds for it to be questioned in the courts. But that still leaves a lot of room for us to be like, okay, yes, technically they followed all the rules that they made up on the spot.
Yeah, but they're not, like, unreasonable. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like they were super unreasonable rules that were thrown in there. Then we could make a case for that. But it's like, you could say that anything, like, changes the landscape of what, like, could have happened, especially because you're talking about the suppression of the Hunter Biden thing isn't even a rule that was changed. That was just something that had happened.
Yeah.
There's multiple things that could have happened that, like, changed the result of the election. So I just feel like it's just like it's a nothing, bro. Like, I don't know.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed that clip, check out the full live stream link in the bio, and catch me live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. See you there.